afternoon, everyone. I think firstly, everybody is looking towards the end of the program and all that, so I will try and keep it to the bare minimum possible so that I don't bore you all too much. In fact, probably we would look at maybe more of question answers would be a better thing, because then you can probably ask us certain things which are very specific, and probably that may be of more interest to you. So I'll run along the presentation a little fast, and I'll only focus on certain things I will just bring out, because I'm not sure into what products, technologies, projects that you may have an interest at this juncture as far as the Indian internal or the homeland security market is concerned. So can we have the next slide, please? I broadly cover in these are the heads which are written there on the slide. Next, please. Next. Is it working? Yeah, fine. I mean, we generally use the term internal security in India, and I won't talk too much about it honestly, because we have talked about the threats that are existing. People are already aware. Over the last 2 days, we've been talking about it with the JNK, the Northeast militancy, the Maoist insurgency, a couple of other things about the urban terrorism which is coming up. So, I mean, what is happening? The only thing to note is that it's we have multiple threats, and we have, other than the army, a very large standing paramilitary forces and the state police, which has also been already brought out. And I'm just talking towards the end as something like the homeland security market, or the budget for the police departments and the paramilitary forces, approximately something like about $8 billion a year. But out of that, we would talk about how much is going to be actually into procurement and what is going into the other under other heads. Next, please. Okay, I'll use it myself now. Okay. These are the many organizations that you have under the Ministry of Home. Then you have the National Security Advisor, which directly works under the PMO, that is the Prime Minister's office. And then you have the state governments. Under that, what is happening is, we have different borders, like from Pakistan, Bangladesh, China, Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar. So you have a dedicated force for each of these borders. So one force, one border. Plus we have CRPF, and which is for internal security, and another one for industrial security. Then, of course, you have the police modernization, the Intelligence Bureau, National Intelligence Investigative Agency, and MHA basically has the border management and the IS division and the modernization division. The entire budgeting for the Ministry of Home, paramilitary, state police is done by the PM division, is called the Police Modernization Division, which does the long-term and the short-term budgetary planning for all the paramilitary forces and the police in India. States, after getting the allocations from the center, since it's a federal structure, they do their own procurements. These are certain areas where the major thrust areas where large allocation of funds is currently underway, and these are going to be ongoing for the next, say, something like 3 to 5 years. The border security fencing, because there are certain areas are still not fenced. We have open borders with Nepal, with Myanmar, along the Chinese border, and as well as the Bhutan border. Somewhere this fencing is on, it's a recurrent thing. The fencing it needs to be replaced. Sensors are there needed along with the fencing. Integrated border checkposts, ICPs. So it's a part of a new project coming as the integrated border management, which is currently underway. BOPs, you have border outposts, which need to be modernized, and this thing. National Maritime Domain Awareness Grid, Crime and Criminal Tracking Network System. We have 14,000 police stations in India. All these police stations are currently being networked, put on a common software, and thereafter specialist tools and software and hardware coming into it as far as these are concerned, so that you have information sharing across the country on a common grid, and specialized tracking softwares, GIS-based applications for crime analysis, etc., as part of this project. Something for the maritime security is identification of boats using the AIS type transponders, and NatGrid. We have 21 agencies with different databases who are into intelligence gathering across the country. All are being integrated through a common grid, which is called the NatGrid, so that basically flow of information. Most of them are the technology products, not the bulk of them do not have too much of hardware, but these are the ones which are talking about related to software, IT, hardware, and networking. Then large market for corporate security and private security agencies. I guess they would be close to about 1,800 plus active security agencies which are operating across the country. I'll talk about them a little while from now. unique identification, UID project, critical infrastructure protection. We've already had a lot of discussion on the critical infrastructure as the first part of the convention and the discussion. Then police modernization, the last city surveillance projects. We talked about mega city policing. Then we have tier 2 city police surveillance projects, and likewise it's going to tier 3 cities. We have divided the districts into tier 1, that is mega cities, then tier 2 cities and tier 3 cities. And this will be on, this project would be on till for another 8 to 10 years, where they hope that to get bulk of the districts in India having integrated city surveillance projects with surveillance, with CCTVs, with command and control, analytics, etc. I'll give you a little snapshot on what is there in the current year, what they're talking about. I mean, it varies from different organizations from the National Security Guard. You know, the budgets are generally listed. I've broadly given it, you know, what is finally coming to for modernization could be something like about $4.5 billion across total for all of them. I've listed out the individual budgets for each of these, which is going to be earmarked only for the modernization projects. Typically, also what happens is, what the trend we've seen is about 30% of this sometimes goes back, because they're not able to utilize it for certain reasons that I'm not bringing out right now. Basically, sometimes delayed in obtaining the funds, sometimes the procedures take time, and therefore about, I would say, only 65 to 70% of this gets utilized. Delhi police, and somewhat like earlier brought out, the union territories, they separately have budgets and all that. They do not come under the other states. The state police, they get the other states. We have 26 states and 9 union territories. That makes a total of 35. So out of these states and all, I mean, all of them get their own budgets from the center. Thereafter, they take out their own tenders, and they go for under different heads. They project their requirement in a year in advance, sometimes the 5-year plan, sometimes a year in advance plan, and based on that they get their allocations, and then they go in for tenders, and these projects get awarded afterwards. Just very briefly, how actually the tenders happen. Now, what a shift is taking place currently, tenders were being submitted physically in hard copies. Now, probably in another 2 years, most of the tenders would be submitted online. The entire process would be through, online submission, except that, you may have to submit even the bank deposits and the bank guarantees and all would also be transferred electronically, so that, there's no paperwork involved in the entire process. And already we are seeing a change in a number of tenders which are coming up this year. They're all available on the internet, they're downloadable, and you need to submit these tenders directly through a web-based submission. Now, generally what happens is you have, sometimes other than a tender, what happens, the first times the process, especially for large projects, they may take out an EOI as an expression of interest, wherein they spell out their requirement in very general terms. And what happens is the companies thereafter respond with products/solutions, and they come up with the suggested solution. There are no costings at this stage. Now, based on that, the government, what happens is they list out certain pre-qualification, sometimes criteria also in the EOI. Now, therefore, based on the response to the EOI by various companies, the same is evaluated by the concerned department, and thereafter they realize that this is the kind of solution they want, and these are the companies which are qualifying and have the potential to respond to this tender. The tender is only given to them, becomes something like a RFP, or a request for proposal, becomes a limited tender. It only goes to those companies who have the potential to be able to respond to this. There are large number of projects out of these in which the technology is flowing from outside of India. So some places they are allowed, either the foreign companies can come as they find an Indian exclusive distributor or a partner, or sometimes a consortium is permitted, sometimes as a subcontractor. So there are different routes for different projects to come in and bid for those. Then after that, like I told you, is the RFP and all that. And sometimes you have, once the RFP is given, they give out, there is a date given normally for any decent sized project, there is a pre-bid. Prior to submission of your tender, you give an adequate notice to submit your doubts, clarifications, certain things that you want to be amplified, which is given back to them, and then during the conference, based on what you've given in writing, they will respond to the queries that have been raised by you, so that you're satisfied, and in case certain amendments if are accepted, a corrigendum is issued, so that all the potential bidders are accordingly informed. Now, the process normally typically says that, there's a notice inviting a tender, it comes out on the web portals, it comes out on the major newspapers and journals, so that it's given a wide publicity, so the bulk of people who are interested can respond to it. Anyway, what happens is most of the companies, they know what they're looking for, and the way they're going to look for it, what they do is that they have dedicated teams monitoring and tracking tenders. So, and first they have an interface with the client. So generally people who are serious, they know in advance that this tender is going to come out anyway. And anyway, after the tender comes out and you're trying to react, I think you're already late and you don't stand much of a chance in that. Then thereafter, I've talked about the web publicity. Along with every tender, normally you give an earnest money deposit, which varies from 2 to 5% of the budget which is allocated. So now this is more in the form of a bank guarantee. Therefore, there's no physical as such transfer of money, but what happens is for that money which is blocked, you lose interest. You have to incur an interest on that for a certain duration, which could be from 6 months to 1 year, depending on how long the tender is going to be evaluated for. Now, thereafter you have the tender opening committee. Typically what happens is it's a two-bid system, the technical and the commercial bid. And what happens is on the first day the tender is submitted, they open the tender on the same day, the first part of the tender, that is the technical qualification part of it. And they just check that your papers are in order, they check whether your EMD and all the checks are there. And thereafter what happens is that they go through a detailed paper evaluation, followed by, if required, a field trial or a proof of concept as required in the tender. And once the companies who are found to be technically qualifying, there's a technical qualification criteria which is listed out on these tenders. There's a marking system which is spelled out in the tender, and they've given out what is the minimum number of marks that you need to be scoring to be able to qualify technically. And the companies who finally qualify technically, the tenders of those selected companies are opened. That is the commercial bids. And thereafter, it's a guy who's got the lowest quote. Typically, he is declared the L1 and the winner. This is what I was already explaining. And thereafter, what happens once that happens, he's given a purchase order, an award of contract, and typically you have an amount ranging from 5 to 10% which gets deposited as a performance bank guarantee is generally locked at that point of time, which is the validity which could vary from a period of 2 months to maybe 1 year or 2 years. Sometimes if the warranty required by you to supply is for a period of 2 years, so therefore your money for that 10% is blocked for that period. So when you're factoring your commercials, you need to keep that in mind, that I'm going to have 10%, I'm going to lose interest on that for a period of say 2 years. So companies, when they're bidding, they're keeping that factoring as far as the commercials are concerned. And thereafter you sign the agreement. Then, those who have not qualified, they get their EMD and all gets refunded back to them. And this is the notices announced as to who has won the project, and they start, executing. For executing the project, you're given a certain timeline, and your payments are also sometimes milestone based. It could be in different phases if you're supplying equipment or you're implementing a solution or you're doing a retrofit or you're doing a assembly. So based on different projects, you will have different timelines and different ways as far as what you're supposed to receive your payments based on milestones and performances. Accordingly, there are also penalties built in case there are delays on your part. So what could be possible penalties are also earlier listed in the tender before that as well as in your contract. Now, once this thing is there, I'll again give you a very small, snapshot on some more things, what's likely to happen. We've gone over the procedure, how the tenders are responded to, how we apply to these tenders, how you win the contracts, how you execute it. This is something, which is, other than what I've listed out, there's also a big market in these areas we're talking about. There's also a whole amount of, the possibilities of doing business in the private sector, corporates, energy sector, public sector enterprises, airport security, for example. I'm talking about the budgets there, police modernization, corporate security, hotel infrastructure, transport security, and the banking and financial sector. The private security, I told you another one. I mean, we earlier also brought out about that. There's a huge market for private security as well. I mean, the type of Delhi itself has something like about close to maybe 80,000 to 100,000 private security guards around in the territory of Delhi itself. So when you look at Mumbai, other industrial areas, other IT hubs, corporate hubs across the country, you can see the amount of manpower which is there. But this industry is also currently getting regulated. Procedures are coming in for the training, basic minimum standards. But for typical security, the wages and all are not very lucrative to people from outside to come in and all that. But training the trainers, and these are certain areas where people can probably have potential tie-ups with Indian companies. Some more, opportunities. Some of these I had already talked about. The CCTNS I talked about. Part 1 is the part 2 is again about intelligent. There's a lot of hardware going into that. It's about $250 million. Optronics 2 I've given out basically for night vision as well as thermal imagers. Then national intelligence grid. This is only 25 million is only for the current year, and this would be overall something like going almost to close to about 75 to 80 million dollars the entire project. Integrated border management. This project would go up to almost about $300 million beyond, and outdoor city surveillance projects, mega city policing. At the same time, now while we talked about opportunities, I'll briefly talk about other than how the tenders are responded to. I'm talking about some of the challenges in the procurement that we're talking about as far as the internal security or the homeland security market is concerned. And so these challenges have to be kept in mind, and while planning your projects, your investments, your potential tie-ups, and how the system and the process is evolving, and like what I talked about, neither MOD or MHA is bound by the existing policy to offer guarantees of purchase on systems and equipment. And the guidelines for licensing production of arms, ammunition, and the government is likely to merely make its acquisition plans, publicly known. Then, now what happens? The combination of the whole factors sometimes, make it entry cost for willing private sector participants. They need to evaluate all these aspects. But what happens is, it is just to bring out the other side of it, because what happens is, just the point to remember is this market is huge, and at the same time it's price driven, it's competitive, and invariably you'll find a number of players in the same segment competing for this thing. Sometimes the timelines is another challenge, because the expected timelines, you can expect delays, overruns. So these are something which add up to the risks and all that as far as that part is concerned. At the same time, you need not only focus on the big part of the market as far as India is concerned. You say, okay, I'm looking at some big projects which have got a long gestation period. There are a lot smaller projects. There are revenue budgets which are fast moving. So for a company which is coming, I would suggest, and which wants to come and invest in India, should have a long-term thing. Certain long-term projects which could take about, say, something like 2 to 3 years to mature. Maybe mid-term, which could take about, say, 12 to 18 months, and certain short-term revenue procurements, other heads which they have the option of going in, which maybe you can have a success in as close as from something like 4 to 6 or 8 months. You will get to be able to win some of the smaller value tenders or smaller projects. So, this is a very brief snapshot that I've tried to cover in a short span of time. Should anybody have questions towards the end of the whole thing? We can have maybe we can have the question answers towards the end of it. Would that be okay? I think because let others also finish. Probably some of your yeah, sure, please.
Sorry, it may help a lot of people who have never done business in India before to see the bullet fall. And once you've been through the entire tendering process, you've been awarded the contract, and bullet 4 suggests that the MOD and the MHA may say, sorry guys, we don't like it. What guarantee are you going to be given, having invested such a huge amount with a no cost and no commitment, that you're going to get reneged upon?
That's the problem.
It is a huge problem.
Yes. But what happens? See, what happens is this would be only for something like the kind of work that you're doing, wherein there is a likelihood of a huge investment in case you go through a process of trials, evaluation. But typically, this is, but what I can assure you, you would lose out money only in case you have not won the project. But yes, sometimes what happens, there's an overrun, something comes up, the project gets scrapped, that's the risk, which is there, or it gets indefinitely extended. So that's where, a lot of investment in terms of trials, equipment moving to that place, manpower, people, costings and everything gets, yes. But please remember, even with that, I do agree with that, but there's so many, all the global players are there still wanting to come in and all, because it's not that, I would still say bulk of the projects do move, but it is better to list out the uncertainty while it's there, so that at least you have a clear picture that this could possibly happen.